It was the night before Thanksgiving, 1971. The rain came down in cold silver sheets over Portland International Airport. A man in a dark suit walked calmly toward the terminal, his black briefcase swinging at his side. He didn't look like a criminal, just another businessman catching a short evening flight. But within hours, this quiet stranger would do something no one had ever done before and vanish so completely that half a century later, his name still sparks obsession. At the ticket counter, he asked for a one-way seat to Seattle, paid with cash, and blended in with the other passengers waiting to board Flight 305. No one remembers him looking nervous. Once in the air, he ordered a drink, bourbon and soda, and waited until the plane had leveled off. Then, he handed a folded note to the flight attendant. At first, she thought it was just a phone number and slipped it into her pocket. But the man leaned in and whispered, "Miss, you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." Inside the briefcase, he revealed wires and red sticks, convincing enough to terrify the crew. He had a simple list of demands: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. For hours, the passengers sat unaware, believing this was just a normal flight. The crew quietly worked with air traffic control, and by the time they landed, every demand had been met. The man released the passengers, kept the crew on board, and ordered the plane back into the air, heading south into the storm. At 8:13 p.m., somewhere over the forests of Washington, the man did the impossible. He opened the rear staircase of the Boeing 727, tied the money to his body, strapped on a parachute, and jumped into the freezing darkness. No one ever saw him again. When the plane landed, the stairs were still open, the man and the money gone. The world would remember him by a name that wasn't even his real one: D.B. Cooper.
November 24th, 1971. A man in a dark suit boards a plane with a briefcase. Hours later, he jumps into a violent storm, vanishes into the night sky, and is never seen again. No body, no parachute, no trace. What followed became the most legendary manhunt in FBI history, and a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Was he a master thief, a desperate man, or something far stranger? Tonight, we unravel the case of the man who hijacked a plane and disappeared forever. D.B. Cooper boarded Flight 305 just like any other passenger. He sat in seat 18C, near the rear of the plane, ordered his bourbon, and quietly observed everything. Witnesses later recalled that he was calm, polite, even friendly, nothing like the image of a violent hijacker. He wore a white shirt, black tie, and neatly pressed suit, as if headed to a business meeting. This was not the image of a desperate man. This was someone in control.
Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed the flight attendant his note, revealed the briefcase bomb, and quietly explained what he wanted. There was no shouting, no threats to passengers, just calm instructions. He requested $200,000 in unmarked bills, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. He even asked for the cabin lights to be dimmed, as though he was staging a perfect performance.
As the plane neared Seattle, the FBI rushed to meet his demands. Agents scrambled to find parachutes, gather the exact amount of cash, and ensure no mistakes would set him off. When the plane finally landed, Cooper kept the cabin dark and curtains drawn, making sure no one outside could see him. He inspected the ransom money carefully before letting the passengers go. Only the pilots, flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant remained on board as the plane refueled. Cooper gave specific flight instructions: keep altitude at 10,000 feet, speed below 200 knots, and fly with the landing gear down. He even requested the rear staircase remain unlocked. The pilots complied, and soon Flight 305 was back in the air, headed toward Reno, Nevada, as the storm raged outside. At 8:13 p.m., over the dense forest near Mount St. Helens, something happened that no hijacker had ever attempted. The cockpit crew felt the sudden change in cabin pressure and a distinct shift in the aircraft. The rear staircase had been lowered. Cooper had jumped. In the storm, in freezing wind, with nothing but a parachute, a bag of cash, and the dark wilderness below him. The moment Cooper jumped, the hunt began. FBI agents swarmed the landing site in Reno, but all they found was an empty airplane and a rear staircase still lowered. The forests of Washington were immediately targeted for one of the largest manhunts in history. Helicopters, ground teams, and dogs scoured the area for weeks. Yet no trace of Cooper, his parachute, or the ransom money was found. It was as if the night had swallowed him whole. Investigators were baffled. Cooper had jumped into freezing rain at night with rough terrain below and no way to know where he'd land. The odds of survival were slim, yet no body was ever recovered. Some experts believed he must have died, his remains lost to the wilderness. Others argued his precision planning proved he knew exactly what he was doing. Perhaps he had even chosen a landing site in advance. Theories soon exploded. Some claimed Cooper was a skilled military paratrooper, perhaps a Vietnam veteran. Others thought he might have been a rogue airline employee who knew the Boeing 727 inside and out. Stranger theories even suggested he vanished with secret government assistance or escaped by rendezvous with a hidden accomplice waiting below. Then, in 1980, a breakthrough. A young boy discovered a bundle of cash buried along the Columbia River, still bound with the original bank straps given to Cooper. It was part of the ransom money. but the find only deepened the mystery. How had it ended up there? Had Cooper buried it? Had it washed downstream after a failed landing? Or was it a clever plan to mislead investigators? False leads plagued the case for decades. Every few years, a new suspect would make headlines. Former pilots, ex-cons, even deathbed confessions. None could be definitively proven as Cooper. The FBI interviewed hundreds of people, examined parachutes, and tested old evidence, but the truth slipped further away. Each failed lead only added to Cooper's legend. When traditional manhunts failed, the FBI turned to science. They combed through the plane for evidence, searching for anything Cooper had touched. The black tie he left behind became the centerpiece of their investigation. For decades, it was carefully preserved, waiting for technology to catch up. In the 2000s, forensic experts began testing it for DNA, hoping to pull a profile that would finally reveal his identity. But science has its limits. The DNA on the tie was partial, degraded by time, and impossible to match to any single suspect with absolute certainty. Instead of answers, it produced more dead ends. Other evidence, fingerprints, hair samples, cigarette butts, either went missing or failed to match anyone. The longer the case stretched, the colder the trail became. Investigators also analyzed the parachutes. They determined Cooper chose a civilian parachute, not the military one, suggesting he might not have been the expert paratrooper some assumed. But that choice also raised questions. Was he careless, or simply confident he didn't need the best gear to survive? Scientists even studied the flight path data, wind conditions, and drop zone to predict his likely landing area, but nothing conclusive emerged. In recent years, citizen investigators joined the hunt. Amateur sleuths, armed with open-source data and new technology, re-examined everything, even using scanning electron microscopes on the tie to detect rare metals. Their findings suggested Cooper may have worked in the aerospace industry around titanium and pure aluminum, hinting at a man who had access to advanced aviation knowledge. And yet, despite all the science, the mystery endures. No DNA match, no parachute found, no confirmed landing site. The FBI officially closed the case in 2016 after 45 years of chasing shadows. Cooper became not just a fugitive, but a legend, the only hijacker in U.S. history to get away with the crime. After years of dead ends, Cooper became more than a suspect. He became an American folk hero. The press nicknamed him D.B. Cooper, a mistaken name that stuck, and soon the world was captivated. He wasn't just a hijacker anymore, he was a phantom outlaw who pulled off the impossible. The story spread across newspapers and television, turning him into a legend of rebellion and mystery. Pop culture embraced Cooper. Songs were written about him. Novels featured him as a mysterious anti-hero, and countless documentaries tried to tell his story. He even appeared in comic books and TV shows, often portrayed as clever, fearless, and untouchable. Hollywood loved the story because it had everything: danger, daring, and a vanishing act no one could explain. Entire towns embraced the mystery as part of their identity. Ariel, Washington, became the unofficial Cooper capital, hosting annual gatherings where locals and tourists toast the hijacker who may have landed nearby. People dress in suits, wear parachutes, and swap theories over beers, not in fear, but in fascination. Movies, podcasts, and even Netflix series have kept the mystery alive for new generations. Each retelling adds a new layer of intrigue, with some portraying Cooper as a tragic figure, others as a genius outlaw. The fascination grows because his story lets people imagine a man who beat the system, vanished into the night, and was never caught. Even today, the FBI's official files are pored over by internet detectives. Forums debate his motives, YouTube channels recreate the jump, and armchair sleuths create new suspects every year. Cooper has transcended crime. He is now a mystery that belongs to everyone, and the longer he remains unidentified, the more powerful his legend becomes. Nearly every expert has a theory about what happened that night. Some believe Cooper died in the jump, the storm, the cold, and the darkness making survival almost impossible. If that's true, his body is still out there somewhere, lost in the endless Washington wilderness. It's a theory that gives the story a grim, almost poetic ending. But others argue Cooper lived and vanished on purpose. This theory suggests he carefully planned his jump, picked a landing zone, and walked away with the money. He could have built a new life, blending back into society, never telling a soul what he had done. Some even think he might have been sitting at a bar years later, smiling quietly as his legend grew on TV. A third possibility is the most mysterious: that Cooper was never just a criminal, but part of something bigger. Some conspiracy theorists claim he may have been testing airport security for the government or involved in covert operations. It would explain the precision, the professionalism, and the fact he was never found. What makes the case so powerful is that none of these theories can be proven. The truth lies somewhere between legend and reality, hidden by time and nature. Cooper is no longer just a man. He's a symbol of escape, rebellion, and mystery. And maybe that's why we don't want the case solved. The unanswered question is what keeps the story alive. And so, the question remains, did D.B. Cooper die in the storm, or is he out there somewhere, living under another name, watching the legend he created? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe that's the point. His story reminds us that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, and that's what makes them unforgettable. And that is the enigma of D.B. Cooper, the man who hijacked a plane, leapt into a storm, and vanished into legend. His story has outlived the investigators who chased him, outlived the suspects who claimed to be him, and it will likely outlive us too. Because Cooper isn't just a mystery, he's a reminder that sometimes, in a world of constant surveillance, a man can still disappear. What do you think happened that night? Did Cooper survive? Or did he die a lonely death in the wilderness? Tell us in the comments below. And if you love unraveling mysteries like this, subscribe to HBO Mysteries, where the past whispers and the unknown calls. Because next time, we're taking you even deeper into the shadows of history.